If you need tips on how to build the strongest team currently in Kaiju number 8, then this video is for you. But really quick, make sure you subscribe if you happen to be new, and let's get this video up to a like goal of 250 likes. Very quick, very easy to do. It's free and it helps tremendously. Oh, we're already rhyming, so this is going to be a great video. So no, Rin is not, unfortunately, a part of the best team in the game, but I will give you guys what I think that is. And so if you want to know, firstly, there are a ton of different ways you can build teams. For example, well, okay, maybe like 4 or 5, but anyway, for example, are we going to build like a team specifically around a character like Rin, where she's going to be the primary character on the team? We're going to focus the other 3 spots around working on buffing her or helping her with breaking a stage or things like that to make things easier for her to do her job, right? Are we going to do that? Are we going to build a team that's just pure DPSs, right? Like, are we going to go full on Gen? Are we going to go Reno? Are we going to go number 10 Hoshina? Are we going to put somebody else in that team and just go pure DPS? We could do that. Could we go the 4 characters you happen to have levels up at the moment? Like, can you do that? Certainly also. Can we do 2 supports, 2 DPSs? I think that's a really strong team build. Something like Soshiro, something like Reno, and then 2 other support characters in there, like a Chester, like a Ashiro, something like that. There's a lot of different ways you can come to multiple different types of configurations, and I have a video, which I'll leave linked in the description, that explains all of that. I said all of that to say that I do have a video that'll cover that, and today's video is solely about building what I think is the strongest overall team in the game. But first, let's go ahead and get into a quick word here, and we'll be right back. Download and get started today on a brand new account for Raid Shadow Legends using my code down below in the description. You'll help me out tremendously, and I greatly appreciate it. And when you do, you'll get access to Ellen Ariel, the legendary, at the sign up. You'll also get Ugo, an epic champion, at level 10, Lightsworn, another epic, at level 20, and Tagore, an epic, at level 30. You also can use Desert Queen to unlock the legendary 2 Hanarok. Get started today and get over $200 worth of free goodies, and it helps me out again tremendously, so I greatly appreciate it. All right, let's get into it now. And really quick, if you happen to, I don't know, skip that, I don't blame you, because I'm sure you've seen a dozen of those, probably a couple, maybe a few dozen. But they are a big-time sponsor for the channel, and I have a full-on partnership with them to produce videos and everything, and I'm actually playing the game quite a bit. Actually, it's my most played game these days, to be completely honest with you. Some of that's just because I don't have to really play this game a ton, because you kind of log in and log back out, you know? But seriously, give it a shot, because I'm sure you haven't checked it out, and if you really want to be supportive, obviously you can like the video, all that stuff, but the best thing you could do for me right now is to sign up with a new account, linked down below in the description for Raid. And again, I know it's a meme, I understand it, I do, but it is admittedly a fun game if you actually give it a shot. All right, so this is not the best team. This is a team. So remember how I started the video saying if you wanted to build a team to kind of like take up for the deficiency of a character, build a team certainly around a character. This was a team that I built for Hoshina. It's not the best buddy for her, because this Hoshina admittedly doesn't do a ton for her. I was using him for like crit, speed, stuff like that. But the other ones are fine. You know, we needed to have a blunt breaker, so that was Kikuru. Kikuru also did defense down. Chester, obviously the best support in the game. He has an attack increase. He has some extra chip damage. And so cumulatively, we have a really good team. So I want to go ahead and change this around. So we're going to start off with, again, the best team in the game, and that is including number 10, Hoshina, the strongest, most useful DPS in the game. Now, this is where the rest of the team actually could stay as it is, and let me explain. So, number 4 Hoshina, or excuse me, 4-star Hoshina. When's number 4 weapon Hoshina coming out? Speaking of number 4, where the hell's Kikuru? Anyway, the 4-star Hoshina. Remember I just explained a second ago how he didn't work great for Rin? Well, he does work great for like literally almost every other character in the game. And the strongest DPS in the game is the number 10 weapon Hoshina. And so buffing him further, obviously, is a tremendous boon. So that is one of the best things you can do. So I have him as his battle buddy. You could try to make like a secondary character. Like, for example, Chester is a good battle buddy, because Chester will get some follow-ups every so often. They'll trigger follow-ups for each other, and you can get the ultimate gauge going up for Chester, and that could be useful, so he can trigger his ultimate more. But again, I don't want to overthink it. Hoshina is the best one there. Chester, strongest support character in the game. Kikuru, has the defense down, has the adjacent blast attacks, has the consistent ultimate usage, and with that, she's able to really help supply extra damage. But that is the flex spot. So this is the spot where things get much more interesting, because you could do a number of different things in this spot to come out with a better team in whatever context you're taking on. So could you use Kikuru? Certainly. I think the definitive best character for this slot is actually Reno. In most content. And so the caveat to that is that the real best character for that slot is just another support character. So I'm going to be completely blunt with you. This is the strongest team in the game. Strongest team in the game. I'll say that. Where you are taking a setup where you are giving a grip of buffs to Hoshina and you just watch him work. What about plate breaking? You don't need it. What about anything else? You don't need it. He just blows it up. He just works, okay? He just blows it up. Are you concerned that he'll not have his resonance and stuff like that? Don't be. It doesn't matter. He just blows it up, right? So that being said, this is the strongest team in the game. I realize the audio didn't come back for some reason, so there we go. Now, like I said, this flex spot, if you want more utility, she's got some okay support utility, but anyway, if you want more utility, if you want more optionality in this spot, you can sub in a number of characters. Sagan, really good character for this spot because she serves multiple roles in this team. She's got an element if you happen to take on content that is elemental weakness. She's got blunt in case you need that for a stage. She's got an AoE blunt and element for the ultimate, but the ultimate, certainly with the first dupe, also mega buffs Hoshina. She is the only crit buffer in the game, I believe, right now, so massive, but it requires her first duplicate. There's that. And then she does other little things like damage over time, the counters, stuff like that, but I don't care as much about that stuff. But she does the attack increase too, so Sagan is actually a really good plug for this spot. Again, Reno, though, is the real one I would put here. Secondary DPS. You can also, you're not really going to prioritize him, but the good thing is that Chester is not selective. Chester is just going to push his buff to everybody. And while Hoshina is pretty selective, Chester is still making everyone as a result stronger, so Reno will still be good. Like I was going to say, you could prioritize him to some degree, like every so often. If you wanted to use your combat skill with 4-star Hoshina here, you could, but I just wouldn't bother. And so with this, you have a strong character that, again, will trigger follow-ups with Chester in this exact team build, and then throwing the ultimates here will be really useful. Certainly, it's useful with Chester too, but certainly really useful here for the adjacent blast attacks and the freeze and the action order stuff. You've got quite a lot, and then Reno also does a grip of damage too. He's one of the strongest output of characters, damage output of characters in the game. So overall, though, I think that's a really good spot. Now, here's the last little flex thing. I mean, if you need plate breaking, which I just explained, you don't need. Gen can go in this spot, certainly, right? Rio is actually really interesting. For the record, if you're digging and pulling Rio, you should use Ashura, because damage dealt is a more significant buff than attack increasing is, and it's really, frankly, not close. So in the hierarchy, it's damage dealt, crit damage bonuses, and then attack increases. You could, in certain context, flip damage dealt with crit damage, but the reason damage dealt is higher is because, firstly, it's not impacted by the opponent's defense, and secondly, because you're able to get a really high value of that. There's no like Sagan's crit damage buff is 30%. You're not with damage dealt bonuses from the Hoshina, from Ashura, you're getting a massive 60+% a lot of the time. So and then even then, with Rio, he has a damage dealt bonus in there in his ultimate. He's got, I believe, on the ultimate, but he's also got it on the last duplicate as well. So he's got some in there. It's just not as free, right? And so that's kind of the trick there. Speed and then damage dealt here, yeah. So if you got the last dupe, he has another 10% damage dealt. That's good. It's not as free though. Now, also speaking of dupes, Chester's first dupe is a humongous game changer. He gives everybody not only his 1,000 attack spread, but 30% damage dealt the entire time he's got the field ops open, which is insane. Actually insane. So humongous game changer. You could actually, at that point, you can get away with Chester being your sole support on your team and go 3 DPSs. You don't need that, or maybe 2 DPSs and 1 utility character like a Sagan or something with Chester. But Rio is interesting for this spot because, again, when built up, he does have some damage dealt in there, but he also applies attack to the entire team, which includes Chester, and that's a passive thing. And so Chester's buff is stronger. It's like 120 attack stronger because, I mean, that's just the difference that Rio's applying. It's not really a humongous difference. Like, Rio's attack increase is not all that great. It's not exactly what it looks like. It looks like 30%, but it calculates out much lower than that because of the enemy's defense. But anyway, he spreads out pretty well that way. So overall, you could do something like that. But again, I would just prioritize Oshiro at that point. Now, here's where we get into more interesting stuff like, what if I don't have XYZ? Let's say Chester. Say you didn't get Chester. You could actually sub him, get this, for Rio. Chester is like Rio 3.0, not 2.0, like 3.0. That's what he is. But at the end of the day, they function extremely similarly. And so you can do that. However, like I mentioned previously, if you're getting to the point where you're plugging Rio in, you need to make sure you've already plugged in Oshiro and Hoshina, ideally. If you're running a team that does not need Hoshina for some reason, Oshiro for sure needs to be on the team, and you really need to strongly look at Sagan too, right? But Rio is the next plug. They function extremely similarly overall. But other than that, though, you may just get to a point where it's like, let me just run these two Hoshinas with 2 damage dealers, or Sagan and a damage dealer like a Reno or something like that. Everybody has Soshiro 10, like, excuse me, I hope everyone has number 10 Hoshina, but 4-star, you get him from default, or by default. If you don't have Hoshina 10, this is where it's kind of fun, because he's such an insane DPS character that it almost feels like cheating using him, frankly. But the fun thing is that the team doesn't really change. Like, it doesn't, you can plug in Reno there, who's like the next best damage dealer in the game, probably. And it doesn't change. Like, you still have this flex spot. You could put somebody here. The thing is that it doesn't change much. Your core functionality is still the same. Your goal is still the same. And I think Reno can be a really strong enough carry to get you through. Now, you could, I think another underrated thing about Rio that I didn't mention earlier was like the speed increase. So speed increase from Reno, or speed increase on Reno with Hoshina, action order rewinds on Reno himself, action order increases on Chester, speed increases on Rio. If you were to do something like that, you would have a team that is fast, efficient, and will keep the enemies from really taking turns, right? And that's something you can do, right? You can sub out this Hoshina for another character that's more action order based if you wanted to do that as well. But yeah, I didn't really talk about that with Rio. That is another thing about him that's really strong. Again, Chester does action order, which is better than speed, but like I said, he's basically Rio 3.0. And then again, say you don't have Reno, you just run the list, right? You're gonna plug Gen. Okay, you can do the same thing. Like, it doesn't really change anything. In terms of building the strongest team in the game, the core functionality does not change. Now, the only other character, and I just looked at him, that I didn't really mention in any capacity that could be a solid plug is Isao. I think Isao is good as a support character plug, but he's got a 20% damage dealt increase, but I think he's probably better with the 4th passive, obviously, right? Like the 4th dupe, obviously. Like, he'd be better with more dupes. That's not rocket science. But it's because it stops him from needing to use the combat skill at least a little bit. At least a little bit. Maybe they won't get hit hard enough so he doesn't have to use the combat skill for a few turns. That actually matters. So you could plug Isao in as well into one of those slots as a character you use. He's just really underwhelming damage-wise because they just screwed him by making him scale off of attack. So it is what it is. All right, guys, hopefully you enjoyed this video. Hopefully it was helpful. Make sure you hit that thumbs up, subscribe, help us hit our like goal, and check out RSL linked down below in the description. Again, it helps tremendously, and I greatly appreciate your support. Share the video with your friends as well if they are interested in playing Kaiju and want to know the best team. I'll see you all later.